Alright, hello everyone, welcome to my first daily edition. In this daily edition, I'll be presenting my revisions of last week and this week's work plan. So let's start with the revisions. In this revision, I'll be talking about the major changes as well as revising my work last week, focusing on what I've learned, what I've improved on, and most importantly, my challenges and how I can avoid them in the next week. Now, firstly, I'm going to cover the major changes. Now, for last week's meeting, I actually led the meeting, and from last week, the meeting report was changed to the meeting reflection, in which we are going to be talking about our performances on the meeting, with also with the performance of the meeting in general of like the 3 or 4 members. Now, the first thing that I want to talk about is my leadership for the meeting. In the meeting, I've been able to lead the meeting with its members more fluently and control the flow more efficiently, leading to me using the 40 minutes in the meeting more like it's more useful for me. Now, Mrs. Pratt has commented at the time of making the video is that when we do the meeting reflection, we have to give examples. Now, my reasoning and my thinking on why this is important is that firstly, it gives us credibility, because by giving examples, we're essentially giving the reader the source of where we're pointing out the mistake, the improvement, or any general comments from members in our meeting reflection. Now, my work for this week. In this week's work, the main work is going to be last week's work. My main work was focusing on AWS research, in which I covered a lot in AWS's services and cost structure. For DE2, I continued the topic on cash flow for my business report, in which I talked about how implementing my knowledge on cash flow into subscription-based pricing can increase the benefits or reduce the cons of my customer segments. And lastly, my DE3 is on how to code in order to build a website. In general, last week I did pretty well. However, one thing that I need to improve on is that I need to once again dive deeper. However, this time on my DE3, because in my DE3 there are still some things that I need to address further in more detail and dive deeper so that I can pull out the full potential of the third daily edition from last week. Now, I'll be moving on to this week's goals, objectives, and work. For the main work, I'm going to be implementing AWS's services into Vortex. However, I'll be tweaking them so that they're basically going to be something more of like Vietnamese market, because I want to serve as a mediator between AWS and the Vietnamese market. So that's what I'm going to do. For my D2, I'll be talking about cash flow in AWS in order to apply it next week to my business model. Now, for my third daily edition, it is going to be a video about handling data and sampling with the addition of the worksheets. Now, my goals for this week is to, firstly and in general, send my work in on time and make it so that it's up to quality. Secondly, is to try my best to do the DE3, because the DE3 this week, in my opinion, is a bit big. It's like a lot, so it's going to be pretty challenging for me. And in general, that's all for my first daily edition. In conclusion, I want to say that this week I want to work hard, and I hope that I can have another chance to lead the meeting so that I can further improve my current skills and especially my leadership skills. So that's all for my first daily edition. Thanks for listening and have a great day.